Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Quest for the Best Director podcast. My name is Matthew Moore. He is the one guy who loves film more than Francois Truffaut, Caleb Ferguson. Caleb, what's going on?
Hello, Matthew. I do love film more than Francois Truffaut. Most definitely.
That's actually probably a pretty hot take, but we'll move on. A guy who hates capitalism more than, or is more depressed by capitalism more than Yasujiro Ozu. Derek, how are you? I botched the intro. I apologize.
Very depressed. Very sad.
I was born. The capitalist system got you down.
Mm-hmm.
Longer and have better grades than who's gonna do better than you in life.
Yeah, sad world we live in.
It's a shame. Anyways, enough about that. The one guy who's more excited to podcast than either of these two.
That is not true. I'm so excited to podcast.
For the Quest for the Best Director podcast this week, it is Yasujiro Ozu versus Francois Truffaut, not Transfroid Truffaut. That seems like a South Park character. And the movies are Ozu's I Was Born But, ... and Truffaut's Day for Night. I Was Born But is just about these two little boys who have to move to a new part of town and to get along with the children, also kind of come to terms with their father and sort of his status in the world. And Day for Night is about this movie that's being made, and really the best way to summarize is just all the shenanigans that are happening on the set of the movie. Which one do you guys want to talk about first?
We can talk about I Was Born But first. Probably the one I'm weakest on.
Talk about I Was Born But first. So, Judge, you haven't watched either of these movies in a minute, right?
Yeah,
Son?
like a month and a half.
Wow. Neither of them. Okay. They're nuts. I Was Born But. Okay. So, Caleb, what'd you think of I Was Born But?
It was really good. It kind of had that Ozu vibe of just like quaint family life. Uh, yeah, I liked it. It was mm, it was fun to watch the kids like get up to their shenanigans and see things through their eyes. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, well, I'm going to do this movie a bit more justice. I thought this movie was phenomenal. I thought it was super duper strong. I just thought, like, I don't know. When I think of Ozu, I guess I think of a very specific thing. I actually hadn't seen, even though I own one of them, any of Ozu's silent films. Blown away by, like, just how different this movie felt from really any movie I had seen before, both, like, I guess in structure and in tone, but especially, like, in narrative structure. Just so weird, but in this, like, great way. A childhood that's, like, also very much about adult, like, not about adulthood, like, this is how life is for adults, but, like, this is how the world is. I thought it was so interesting, like, this kind of approach they take.
Yeah, the way they kind of like show you these like parallel lives of like the kids on the playing in the field of the schoolyard or whatever, and like the dad in his office, and like the way these two worlds are similar and different in the way they interact with each other, and like treating both with equal gravity, I guess you could say.
I love how you point out, like, the interaction, right?
Hmm.
Because I think that's, like, what makes me so interesting, right? Is there is, like, this interaction and this tension and, like, parallel where, like, these two boys, they have this person who has a higher status than them, and I don't even know the kid's name, but the bully,
Hmm.
right? And this bully, basically through kind of their own charm and wit, right? They're kind of able to, like, overcome this bully, lack of
Hmm.
a better term. And the dad, the person who's higher status than him is his boss, and they don't get to, like, he doesn't get to fight back against his boss. He has to kind of just kiss up to his boss.
Hmm.
That's the reality of his world. And it's kind of this disconnect between the children and the father, but it's inevitability that, culture sort of thing with a disconnect like that. It's like worlds, but these are children will eventually become the father, and kind of the sadness within that, I think, is really, really cool. But what were your thoughts on the movie? Rick, you alive?
Um, it was interesting that he brought up like how weird the narrative is, because it definitely is. It's almost downplaying the actual action that's going on. Like the kids go to school and they get bullied, but it's like never like a big deal. It feels like it's always, I don't know. It's kind of like downplayed, underwhelmed, understated. That's the word. Understated. The actual action is understated.
Not only that, like you say action, you mean like both the actual, I guess, like physical, like, or with like the like the narrative action, right? Also the action in terms of like the physical action, like there's all these like shenanigans things like in a comedy movie would be big, like whoa, whoa, sound effects. But in this movie, they're like, for instance, the scene in the classroom where like, oh gosh, I can't even remember exactly what's happening in this scene. One of the boys, one of the kids in the class is like sending one of the other boys a note or something, and like the kid gets in trouble, and everyone looks up at him, at the same time, and it's a really comical sort of thing, and like what happens is like it's just, but it's not like played as this big joke, right? It's kind of this cute little thing of like everyone looks up, everyone looks down, everyone looks up, everyone looks down.
Yeah, I thought like the visual comedy in this movie was very effective, but I guess like Derek said, it's a little understated. Like it's not quite as like zany as some sort of like Chaplin silent film visual comedy, but uh it's like hmm, I don't know, just like the whole shenanigan they have where they like pull up two fingers and then they make the guy fall down and then they like cross themselves and then they make him come up again, and it's like all these like weird little actions, and then like you said, like the synchronized up and down motion of the heads, or like kind of tying back into what Derek said about like the bullying, like how the extent of the bullying is basically just like I'm gonna tap you on your head a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean there's some fighting going on there too, but yeah, it is kind of goofy. And by the way, just to make the synchronization of it all even of the boys and their heads better, I remember what it was. It was they were looking up. The boy got in trouble for eating a sparrow's egg in class, which is like
Yeah.
so silly.
And then like the sparrow's egg becomes like a currency where they have to like pay a sparrow's egg to like get in to go see the movie to his
Yeah.
house. Like, and I'm like, this is like kind of what I mean. Like, it seems like so silly, but on the other hand, it's also like very quaint, and I can definitely see like this happening. Like, this feels like pretty believable that like the neighborhood boys would have some sort of like strange currency
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something
Because
like
like, what else are they gonna
authentic.
do?
Yeah.
Currency's like taken so much more seriously, right? And it's not this
Hmm.
like a negative relationship like there's with money, you know?
Yeah, but interesting though, like what it sort of symbolizes the same thing as money does, right? Because like money is like as it's described in the movie is basically what gives you social power and makes you important. And then the sparrow's eggs, the reason why they're valuable is because they think that if you eat them, you get to be big and strong like the bully guy, and that makes you important in the kids' world. So it's kind of like it's a parallel.
Yeah, but here's the key difference. Well, I guess maybe you can argue but life, who do you give? Who gives who the money, right? I should say, who gives who the money? It
Like the
is,
people with the money give it to the people who don't, right?
yeah, exactly. Who, yeah, so the people with more status give it to the people with less status, right? And
Hmm.
this, the kids with less status give the sparrow's egg to the boy with more status, right?
That's true.
Going on there too. Just
And I
in
think
general, the
like
whole shenanigans of the sparrow's egg like crack me up. What are you gonna say though?
kind of like coming back to like these parallels between like the hierarchies in the kids world and the adults world, like it's sort of exemplified with like the whole way that like not only does the kid's dad like bow to his boss, but he bows to his boss's son too.
Yeah, like it's kind of nuts, right? And this obviously his boss's son has no power over him, right? But the fact that it is related to his boss, you know what I mean? Eventually will have power. It's even more ironic, right? Because the kid doesn't bow to the boss's son, you know what I mean? I mean, one of the last shots, maybe it is the last shot of the film, is literally the kids like, walking off together with the boss's son, right? It's like in this
Yeah.
moment, they're like peers, and you kind of have to enjoy that for what it is.
Yeah. Let's see. So, what was I gonna say? One of the other things I thought was sort of interesting is how maybe I'm reaching with this, but it seemed like there was a lot of like American influence with certain aspects of like, for example, like their house has like literally like a white picket fence. And I don't know, maybe it's like a global thing, but I'd always thought of like the white picket fence as being sort of a part of like the American suburban fantasy.
Okay, so yes, but I don't think it would have been at that point.
Yeah, this is in like the 1930s. So for like the Japanese at this point, and for like even America at this point, the idea of like the white picket fence isn't like
Yeah.
isn't associated with like the American dream and all that yet. That's more of
Yeah, it's
a
not like associated with like suburbia, right?
yeah.
That's not quite that connection hasn't been made. I think that's like not to the 50s or so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it is
it's
kind of like
specifically after World War II because of the rise of suburbia because the housing
And the GI
problems
Bill.
and the GI Bill. Yeah.
Okay,
But
the
it's
other thing though is that
interesting though, in
his
retrospect. Yeah.
the other connection with that is the boss's door has like English written on it, like it says private in English,
Hmm.
which I thought was interesting. Like I don't know, maybe you guys have some thoughts on why that would be.
Hmm.
I don't know. This is a good question. I mean, making this connection with America, what does America mean right now to Japan? And I guess at this point you would think maybe you can kind of see it, take this weird interpretation of it, right? Where it's like, this is 1932, right? Sound has been a thing for like 4 or 5 years at this point. You know, 35, I don't know, it kind of depends how you, but at this point, films are expected to be sound, right?
Mhm.
This is like, well, you can argue it's a conscious choice, maybe it's like a choice of, just the Japanese studio system, right? Where there's like really aren't making sound films yet. Just kind of the world is going, right? The world at this point is kind of following America, and that kind of comes from the top down, right? The comment is just like, just the American way and all these kind of, you could kind of argue, crummy ideals are being pushed from the bosses, potentially.
Yeah, so
And even the point where if you want to argue like his house is kind of Western, I could see that, and I could also say that maybe, it kind of disseminates down to it, right? Because why does he move out to the suburbs? He moves out.
yeah, I guess that makes sense. Do you think it's just that like English is sort of like at that time like the language of business, like international trade? I don't know if that was even the case at that time, but that's my best conjecture.
Well, this
No.
New York's still like the center of the stock market and all that at this point, and
Yeah.
and it had
It's
been for
definitely like,
like quite a few years at that already. So.
Hollywood is also definitely the epicenter of film, at this point. It's
Hmm.
pretty dominant.
That's true too.
A few things. You can definitely think about it as like a comment on film, maybe a comment on like business, or just comment on America ruining everything, which is definitely a lot of themes of, leads to young children being depressed. Because man, those boys were spitting it real.
Dude, yeah. This is another thing, a connection to like the early summer that you watch is the kids are just like really on one.
I think even more so in this film, honestly.
Oh
Like,
yeah, to the next level for sure.
like why should I have to like, have to bow down to this kid who's like worse than me and all of this and like, Dad, you're a joke. Don't you get you're a joke?
Hmm.
These kids have, right? Where first it's like, right, system, and then it's like maybe we can do something, right? Like obviously this anger like try to like solve it. So they go, they go in this fast, so their parents can get more money. Hopefully, with that money, they can gain some sort of status. But
Was
futile.
that their rationale though to like help their parents save money? I thought they were just doing it to be shits.
No, they literally say it's to help the parents to get money.
Oh, okay.
Literally, yeah, they're literally just like it's like a line where it's like maybe if we like stop eating, mom and dad, because my parents remember we use all of our money, we use our money to like buy you food. If we don't use any,
Oh yeah,
and they're like, oh well, maybe then we should just stop eating food so they don't have to buy us food anymore.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's
Yes,
like
and that turns into like this like acceptance because like what else are they gonna do?
yeah, and then like later on too, that like sense of acceptance of like when they tell him like, shouldn't you go say hi to your boss and all that stuff,
Mhm.
like in kind of like one of the penultimate scenes, I think. And yeah, that kind of just like acceptance of the world, like not maybe as it should be, but at least how it is. So you kind of just have to deal with it.
This is a great moment where you think the dad isn't gonna say goodbye to his boss,
Yeah,
like I did, and like of course he is.
yeah,
He is not to provide a solution, but it's kind of the solution you really can't do.
yeah, because there's not much you can do about it. You just kind of like got to live with it. But this movie does like a great job of I think like putting you in the perspective of the kids and like kind of evoking these like very authentic like childhood emotions. Like when they're watching the movies and they see their dad being basically like this clowny type character, and it's so weird like for the audience to see him like that too because like we haven't seen him do anything besides be like a kind of stern dad figure. So like we're almost as surprised as the kids are when we see him behaving this way, and you kind of get that like sense of like confusion and like psychological like dissonance on their part where they're like who is this guy? Like maybe our dad isn't this like strictly paternal figure. Maybe he's other things to other people. And then in psychology, that's like kind of like a big moment in like childhood development, I guess. Like when you realize like that your parents are fallible and something other than parents, I guess.
hmm And it's even better, right? Because they do too much building up to it, right? We'll constantly hear like, not just these kids, but every kid talk about their dad, right? Like my
Mm-hmm.
dad could beat up your dad, and my dad's cooler than your dad, and all these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
That makes these moments even stronger. I feel this moment even
Mm-hmm.
stronger. I feel where you kind of realize the dad's a joke.
Well, I don't think he's supposed to be a joke though. Like to adults, I think he's supposed to be maybe like a clowny character, but I don't think he's supposed to be like disrespected. Do you think?
I don't know, Dirk. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't get that the vibe that he was like disrespected. I think he just this is the reality of the world, and maybe this is like I don't know. These kids are rejecting that reality.
I mean, you do have this like very clowny, montage of him like doing all these funny facial expressions and stuff. You know, and all these kind of goofy sort of things.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's supposed to be like denigrating to him. Do you think?
Oh, and yes, I mean, objectively, they are like laughing at him, right? Whatever.
But he's doing it to
It's
get
true.
laughs, right? Like he's doing it because it makes people laugh. Like he likes it, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I
It's
think
just
it's
like
just
a
like a
joke.
weird
I don't know.
feeling. I think it's supposed to be like the weirdness of like your dad probably like their dad at least wasn't being silly to them. Like he was always the serious one and they were the silly one.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden like they see their dad being silly, like making like he's making literally the same face that they do. So you can almost imagine that like he's
hmm
made it to them a couple times and they've like picked up on it. But like seeing that, yeah, I don't know. I do think that he is supposed to be a little bit of a demeaned character slightly because like you see his coworkers like
Yeah.
basically mention that he's basically brown nosing the boss. But on the other hand, they do mention like, well, that's why he's a manager and you're not, so you could probably learn something from him. So I don't think he's supposed to be necessarily like a pitiful or like bad character. He just knows how to make people like him and knows how to play the game, I guess.
He's kind of just like, once again, he's kind of just the reality of this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I feel like we're really, oh gosh, I feel like so much to go through with this movie. Because the thing is, they're this big fight with the dad, right? And it doesn't. Usually with these big fights, right, they get resolved in like this sort of climactic, satisfying way. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And this one gets solved basically by the mom putting out, these rice cakes. Or not rice cakes. What am I
Rice
calling? Rice
balls.
balls. Yeah, sorry,
Onigiri. Onigiri.
that stuff. But put these rice balls and they just kind of eat the rice balls and kind of like with them accepting, right? And they kind of talk with their dad and they go to school the next day. But it's not this big sort of satisfying thing, right? Where the dad and them talk through it and stuff, and like everything's better.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because I guess my question is, why not? Why not give us like, why not kind of fill the audience's desires in that sort of way?
I guess because like the dad doesn't really have a good answer for them. Like there is no like satisfying conclusion to be had because like there's no authentic way that he could like give them some sort of dramatic monologue that would make them feel better about like the ways of the world and that they aren't rich and they aren't like on top of the pecking order. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of like the way it goes. Like you said, but
All
like
we
we
can
kind of
do is
mentioned earlier.
empower them.
Yeah, like yeah, right. And like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of about acceptance more than anything else. Like kind of like with having to go to school, like when you're and like them not wanting to go and they want to skip, right? Like when you're a kid, like no monologue that your parents give you is gonna like hit hard about like why going to school is important. You're just gonna like hate it, and you're gonna eventually like as part of the growing up process, you realize like, well, I gotta go to school, and it's probably gonna be boring, and it's not as fun as staying home and playing with my toys, but I just have to do it because I have to do it, right? And you don't come to that conclusion because your parents give you some moving speech about how getting an education is important because that's not even gonna like make any connection with you. You just
Yeah,
do it because you have to.
it's a really good point. Ah, gosh, I'm sorry. I love this ending scene, like the ending scene so much. Like, they're super duper strong. Like beautiful. Like I think these shots of the boys in these chairs, right, looking out into like this to the road, basically, they're facing the road, right, and there's this like a certain irony there, because what is the open road supposed to represent? World and
Mm,
like destiny and like what could be, but then, of course, how their destiny is like not to be anyone, to be a nobody, I guess, in the words of the movie.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's like dark irony there, right? Where at a certain point in life where like you kind of get the same answers, right? Which is there's nothing you can do. And there's this obviously hilarious exchange towards the end there too, where the dad asks the kids like the younger boy, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he goes, I want to be a lieutenant general. And it's almost the biggest tease, right? Because the dad goes, why don't you want to be a regular general? Why do you want to have to be a lieutenant? And you think it's gonna be like this big moment for the son, where it's like you can be anything you want, and it goes because that's his job.
Kind of coming back to that, like I think that's one of like the cutest things of this movie, like the interaction between these two brothers and uh their mannerisms and how the one like slightly younger one kind of just like follows the other one around. And like it made me think of it because you're talking about that scene where they're both sitting in those chairs and you could see like one of them start like kicking his legs back and forth, and the younger one like a split second later starts kicking his legs back and forth. And it's just so cute to see him like kind of following his older brother around. And then also like whenever they get into like the fight in like the field or whatever, and the kid just like always takes his shoes off and starts holding them like weapons. Like, dude, that's just funny stuff. Holy crap.
Oh yeah, and he's like these little poses he does, like whenever like he's leaving somewhere
Mm,
to scare him off one last time.
yep.
Does look like a bug though. Those kids were right. He has a funny looking face, but it's a cute face.
Yeah, I think it's like what's good about this movie is that there's like a lot of like heavy, or you could say like depressing stuff about like the nature of life and how you have to come to accept all of the sad stuff. But like this movie's also just like a really cute, like feel good movie on another level too. Like of getting to watch this like family like navigate, you know, childhood drama and watching these kids be like buddy brothers. Like it's kind of cool.
It's really cool. And as we'll discuss this a lot more day for night, but there's definitely analysis on film stuck right in the middle there that I really loved. Do you guys remember the scene I'm talking about?
Is it when they're watching movies?
Yeah, so we're watching these movies. But it's so cool, right? Because almost cooler, whatever this is, like almost 90 years later, right? This is an experience that we won't get anymore. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Like putting on a movie and seeing something that you really have never seen before and not ever be able to see. Like these lions and these wild animals and stuff like this.
Wait, what
Like,
do you mean that we don't get to have that experience?
I mean, I guess we do to some extent, right? But it just happens so young and so often, right?
Yeah,
Everyone coming together for like these once in a while things we get to just see the lion roar and just like how amazed everyone is by it.
yeah. I feel like if you're gonna get that experience now, you're gonna have it like by yourself, looking at your phone or something, like while
Exactly.
you're sitting on the toilet, or
On this giant TV screen.
Yeah.
Movie, yeah. Movie screen, I should say, not TV.
Also, it's sort of like that interesting social event of like, yeah, everybody come bring your home videos. We're gonna have a viewing.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. Like, it's another thing we don't get, right? Like, I don't know. When we were growing up, we kind of had like, at least I kind of had like the TV parties. That was still a thing at the beginning of my adolescence.
Yeah,
American Idol and these sorts of things. But like, hardly exist anymore, in this real sort of way.
yeah.
And I think that's super cool. Do you have any more comments about the movie?
I like.
He did interesting like distance thing with the cinematography that I haven't seen him before, and like we watched early summer and whatnot, and most of the shots are kind of he focuses on like central space and like he likes getting like very far shots or the very extent of the house from one side to the other. But this is kind of like I noticed this when like the kids are like getting ready to go to school. They would the camera was like almost as close to them as possible with while still getting the frame of the doorway and the entryway and then putting on their shoes. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's that reason for that is because this film is shot from like the kid's perspective, right? So like I think right there's a sort of monotony of life, and this kind of simplicity of life where it's like 1 2 1 2. But for kids, simplicity of life there isn't necessarily this core understanding of everywhere around you. You know what I mean? And this doorway is supposed to feel gigantic to us. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But I think all these things kind of just heighten the child experience, what it means to be a child.
I thought another really good scene that put me in the shoes of a child was when they tell their mom that they got like an E or whatever on their assignment, and then like they see their dad come in the door and they can tell he's pissed about something, and they're like, "Oh fuck," and they see him just kind of
So great.
slowly like undo his suspenders, take off his suit, and they're just like sitting there like, "Oh my god," it's like the Jaws theme or something like impending doom.
What's the great irony of that scene? It's that I mean he still does get his calligraphy done, right? Like,
Yeah, that's true.
and it's almost once again this kind of like mockery of the school system, right? Where this how much time is wasted, right? We kind of get these silly looking things of the kids like marching, and you wonder, you know what I mean? Maybe there's a sort of capitalist soldier sort of theme going on there, but
Well, yeah, I don't know if that was. I don't really know that much about the history, but that was like World War II, so or before World War II, so Imperial Japan was like still a thing. They were probably like super militaristic at that time.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a good point too. Like maybe like this is just how it. Yeah, like these kids almost training these kids to be soldiers. You know what I mean? That's what you are,
Yeah.
as a soldier.
And that's kind of like comes back to what we were talking about before, right? Like he just wants to like do his calligraphy and like do that all that crap like on his own, right? And do it like outside of these like established hierarchical systems. And just like how when it comes to like dealing with the schoolyard bullies, right? Like we talk about like how the eggs are like power and like how they're like the corollary to money. But and like how in the world you can go off on your own and get the eggs yourself and find them. And then through that way like gain power. But in the adults world, there's no way to like gain money on your own. You can't just like go out and pick up money out of trees and off the ground. You have to go through somebody else and through like a hierarchical system. So like him like doing the calligraphy like out on his own in the middle of the field is kind of like a kid's version of that, right? Like you could just kind of do it on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can kind of learn yourself, and this is a point in life where you still can. You know, like learning yourself is sort of encouraged, right? And like having sort of a curiosity for life is like really like frowned upon. I'm not saying it is. I do think it is for adults, maybe not like explicitly so, right? But as an adult, you're supposed to be, I guess, like a soldier, right? You're supposed to do your work and kind of just fit into the system.
Yeah.
Kind of for kids about being outside of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole skipping scene is just so great, isn't it? Just like how they just like immediately get hungry and they just eat because
Yeah.
they can, you know, they don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think about. And it's the great part is we don't ever, oh, I'm so hungry, right? But that's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene is that you can do things on a whim. You don't have to, you know, feel these society norms. Life should be kind of about child.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone's kind of focusing on self pleasure, but still minding their own business, it's okay. We confuse self pleasure with, you know, kind of forcing society to accept us, which is very different.
This movie's so good because it has like so much to dig into and there's so much that's like actually there but very little of it is like explicitly said and there's so much of it that just like I feel like you can watch this movie and completely not think about these things and just enjoy it as like like a simple kind of peaceful suburban movie but and it doesn't like shove any sort of like socio-political commentary down your throat but yet it's all still there to dig into like if you want.
I think that's probably the point, or maybe unintentionally the point of understating a lot of the action of the and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, let's see.
Also, there is very little dialogue in this movie compared
Mm-hmm.
to at least compared to like Day for Night.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's a silent movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel what you're saying. Like, yeah, there's definitely not a lot of dialogue. Well, because once again, I don't think like that's I don't think all like the nonsense of dialogue is important for children. You know what I mean? Children, it's more of a sort of things, right?
I agree, Derek. It ends up being like a show don't tell kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you guys have mentioned Day for Night. You ready to move on to Day for Night?
I just wanted
And
to mention the one last hilarious thing in that movie was that
Mhm.
sign hanging off of that kid on his back. Like, don't feed
Yeah,
him. He's sick to his stomach. Like, dude, how do you
my
think about that?
gosh,
That's so funny.
it's hilarious. I was like, because it just looks so goofy. And that's the thing. It's like some of these kids bullying our two characters are really pathetic themselves. You know,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
great is because it kind of shows how arbitrary status is. You know.
Yeah. Can your dad take out his teeth like mine can?
That little boy with the "don't feed him" something like that just cracks me up every time.
Yeah.
Especially because like you know like it's as he's eating, right? You're
Yeah.
just doing the rest of the time.
Mm.
Yeah. Day for
I'm
night?
ready for day for night. Yeah, let's do it.
Caleb, we're looking day for night.
All right. Let me flip my notes over. This I think this was a great. This movie did a great job of balancing um, sincerity and like satire, because you get this like two-sided thing going on where like a good chunk of this movie is like, look how much of pain in the ass making a movie is, and all of this crap you have to deal with. But then you'll like randomly get these shots where you can see that Truffaut like loves making movies, and like making movies is like his like greatest pleasure in life, and he loves it more than anything else. And he feels that very sincerely. So this movie does a great job of like providing that contrast where you can simultaneously feel his like annoyance and love for filmmaking.
So not filmmaking, but also just film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, what I mean, I think there's like as much filmmaking as I think there's also like a lot of just kind of film theory comments too. I mean, and of course, Truffaut is like a very notable film theorist, right? Like, best ever, you know.
Wait, I don't really
So
know that much about that side of him. You should tell us some.
okay, I can do my best. So film was like, it's like I guess it's actually like a bit post, right?
Yeah.
And journal at the time called Cahiers du Cinéma, which was just, I think because it's like the film journal, right? And it includes guys like Truffaut, um, obviously Godard, and oh my gosh, how am I forgetting his name? Oh no, I literally like it's the worst because I literally just had it in my head like 10 seconds ago. It's gonna heck until I remember. Oh, Bazin, Andre Bazin, right? Who is not a director.
Mhm.
I'd say out of these guys like Truffaut, I'd say like him and Eric Romer, two of the other bigger guys outside of Bazin, who are like really like running Cahiers and really like it's all about this film is like a spectacle in this very unique way that I think because more than films kind of purely within this Hollywood formula and like how well fits into this Hollywood formula and things like this.
Mhm.
Um, here's a cinema. I think it really kind of gets revolutionized. I'm not quite doing it justice because honestly, I'm not like an expert, but this is like my understanding. And yeah, Truffaut is like a big, big film theorist. Like I would say, I'm sure you guys know Godard as like a film theorist. I would say Truffaut, at this point at least, this is like what 1980s, right? Day for Night,
Yeah.
1982. That's my first guess. 73, I lied. Yeah, definitely by 1973. I think he's like the bigger name in film theory than Godard is. Godard probably maybe a bit obviously a bigger name in film directing and probably later on maybe you can even argue a bigger name in film theory once Histoire du Cinema comes out, so things like this. But yeah,
Mhm.
at this point I'd say Truffaut is the big film theory guy.
That's cool, and you definitely get a taste of that when he's like, it kind of has like this little like they're sampling music that's going to be in their film, and he like opens up a package and it's just like he literally lays them down one at a time, and it's like all of these like basically like director biographies and
Yeah.
film
Yeah.
theory books. And that was like one of those scenes where like, and what's interesting is the way he uses music to highlight when he's being sincere, because like there's not that much constant music throughout the movie, but I think like almost every time there's like a very like heartfelt like love for movies scene, it's
hmm
playing music.
Or like one of these montages of like making movies and stuff. And of course
Yeah.
you always get like these film reels too, right,
Hmm.
happening at the same time for the physical film.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. They had a never mind, actually not important. But yeah, so much to go through in this movie. It's kind of like hard to like decide what to start on. But yeah, I think the main idea of this film is the beauty in all of this, right? Like the love for film and well, I think both of these movies are just so unique and movies about making films. I mean, like 8 and a Half, right? Um,
Hmm.
probably like one of the most famous movies about making films, and there's several others. in 8.5, the main character in 8.5, like the protagonist he's still the protagonist. You know what I mean? Like he is the
Uh-huh.
central character. Day for night, to me, there's no question. The film is the central character. It's not the director. It's not the actors. It's not even like these, or like I guess like what's the other girl? She's like the associate director. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
redhead.
It is the film. I think it's explicitly clear in a number of ways. Do you guys think that's fair to say? I
I think you cut out a little bit. Would you mind repeating what you said?
just think that in this movie, film is like clearly to me the central character.
I agree, but I think that out of all of the actual humans in the movie, like the director's definitely the main one. If for no other reason than we see his dreams, which is another I would I would fairly confidently say another direct reference to 8.5, where we have dream sequences of the director. And as you guys know, I love 8.5 a whole lot. So uh, this movie like really hit hard for me in all of those ways. But I
I don't know if
agree
it's
that
fair
like
to
eight and a
eight
half
and a
is a
half.
lot. Huh?
I don't know if it's fair to maybe it's like I think like it is a direct reference to like a lot of things in these dreams. I don't know if
Well,
8.5 necessarily like it's it could be and maybe like indirect reference like I said, but like Charlie Chaplin in these dreams, right?
no, I think I don't know. I'm not saying the dreams in particular. I'm saying this movie as a whole is a direct reference to 8.5. The dreams reinforcing that connection because they're both about directors who are making a movie and all of the stuff that comes along with it, having to deal with the cast and all that stuff. And as another thing on top of that, we get to see the director's dreams and his relationship to movies through these dreams.
I don't know. I guess the word direct just feels a bit weird to me. Because then like you have to like view it through the lens of 8.5. I think that becomes tricky. I don't think it's a direct reference. But I understand what you're saying. It's definitely like, makes reference to 8.5. As well as like a plethora of other movies, right? Like obviously we here talk about what? The Godfather, Citizen Kane, what other movies like explicitly mentioned? Those are the big two I can think of.
And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with the pack of books he gets, he he shows
Yeah,
off
there's like
all of the directors that we're watching right now. So,
Yeah, no, that was so
so
yeah, that was hilarious to me. Oh, and when they're watching like they're listening like the quiz radio show or whatever, and it talked about Falstaff. I like as soon as they asked that question, I paused and I thought for a minute. I was like, oh yeah, that's Falstaff. It was very validating.
it's really funny.
uh,
Um, and yeah, of course, like we also get the very direct, yeah, Orson Welles reference with the dream. I think like in the dream, he's also literally Charlie Chaplin. Is that fair to say? That is like a very direct
yeah, with the
Charlie Chaplin.
cane,
Oh, I didn't catch
Funny,
that.
and the
Nice.
funny walk and the hat. Yeah,
yeah,
it was very Chaplin to me. And like he sees himself as a silent movie character, right?
Oh,
the black and white.
But see, I still disagree that the director is the main character because what's the director's story arc this whole time, Caleb?
I mean, he doesn't have to have one, but I think that like we definitely like. I mean, this movie is directed by Truffaut. Truffaut is in this movie playing a director of this movie. So I don't think it's like a stretch to say that it's like he's obviously a self-insert and this movie is directed by him, so it's obviously about him to some degree. Like it's about Truffaut's love of movie and the director's love of movie. I don't know. It's like I don't think he
Yes,
has an
so
arc, but we
like
see
I
it's
just
like
feel like that's right. Like we get, it ends with the director and it's about his journey. We're constantly thinking of the director, but here, like arc, I don't think we ever really even care about the director's emotions at all throughout the movie.
we get his voiceover where it talks about his thoughts on things, but I think the way I sort of am viewing it is that like he's central, but he's like the axis around which everything else is turning, right? Like he is unmoving and everything else is kind of moving around him. Or you could
It,
also substitute that with the movie.
but it is. I think it's the movie. I don't think Truffaut would be the type to say that the director is movie because
That's
I
why he's
mean,
showing all the side people. If he was gonna make
yeah,
that statement, he wouldn't
exactly.
be showing, the gaffs and etc. etc.
He might
I
be
mean, I
making the
agree that
movie.
it's like decentralized, but I think that like if you had to pick a person, you would definitely pick the director.
No, I wouldn't. I would actually go first. I would not. I would probably pick Julie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Really?
She's the
all
one.
these close-ups of her
But
face.
she doesn't even show
Yeah,
up until halfway through the movie.
Yeah, but she's the one who's being used to make like probably the biggest indictment on film.
yeah. And I think she's the one you get all these close-ups of her face, right? Like her emotions, are the ones we're supposed to be feeling. You want to argue who this film itself centers most around? Like
Yeah, and
not Day for Night, but the film within the film, right? Like it centers around Julie, right? The press centers around Julie, all these sorts of things until, of course, Alexander dies at the end. But
And
yeah,
I agree. I think we probably agree on a lot of things. We're just using the term central character somewhat differently. Because yeah, I definitely agree that she is like the center of the narrative action of the film. Uh, but
to
I
the
think
most extent.
the director is like the lens that we see things through.
Okay, well, once again, Cal, I'm sorry to say this, but I think that is like very literally not true. We see things through is literally the lens of the camera, right? And I know it's some ticky tacky, but this is important because like I think it informs our view of the film like this major sort of way. Like it's like the cat, right? Or even that these scenes with what's the old lady's name? You guys know what I'm talking about?
The one that's like she's the drunk, or the one that's
Yeah,
the
the
wife
drunk,
of the. Okay.
the drunk. Yeah, the wife is a whole different person who that cracked me up at the end too.
that's
But
Severine.
like
Yeah.
I think it's actually Save Lorraine. But when we see the scenes like of her like messing up over and over again, it's through the lens of the camera, and we feel extra bad because like you think it's gonna work because we're kind of getting the camera's view, and we feel the disappointment of the film, and with the cat we feel the success of the film, and then of course I think which is after Alfonso, after Alexander I should say if I'm going French with it, right? What do we get? We get this shot quite a few notes in this one shot. We get this shot of his scene on the balcony, eyes, right?
Yes,
And they could have done like a person's memory. They could have done anything, but Ginger lived for the camera, and it is his relationship with the camera that is most important, right? His relationship with literal film.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all that stuff. Eh,
he does it.
I think our opinions are close enough
He
to each
he
other.
does the same exact thing a little bit earlier with the pregnant receptionist when he's filming her in the pool. He he starts by actually filming or showing it from the camera point of view, and then shows it from the third person overview of the whole affair.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there's all these shots that are like, I think it's like the viewfinder, right? Like the place where you look on the camera. Like, so it's not as if like we're looking, we are the camera, right? But we are like looking through a camera at the viewfinder of another camera. You know what I mean? So it has like the little crosshair looking things and all that sort of stuff, which is like just like another layer or another
Yeah,
level.
like this kind of meta. Yeah, sure. We've talked a lot about this movie without really talking about anything that's actually gone down narrative-wise, and there was a hell of a complicated narrative. So, do we want to tackle this character by character? Is that the best way to go?
Sure.
Pick a character.
Uh, Lilian.
Is Leon?
I don't know. I'm looking at the. Y'all are the one who just watched this. I think Lilian is the one that was with the
Was
main
with
character. Yeah,
Alphonse?
Alphonse.
Okay, we'll talk about Alphonse and I guess Lilian by proxy. First, Derek picks stupid character.
Wrong
But yeah,
choice, Derek.
um, but yeah, Alphonse. What do you guys think of Alphonse slash Lilian?
He's a pitiful character.
He's literally the worst. I hate
Yeah, I
him
hate
so
that
much.
guy. I hate him too.
Yeah, he's actually Such a child.
Like, he's getting married to this woman who like clearly isn't into him, right? And like she's terrible too, right? Liliana is. 'Cause she's just like really just leading this boy on, but also he is a boy, and he should not be a boy because he is too old to be a boy, but he is a boy,
Mhm.
and the way he does to Julie is terrible. I forget what she does itself is terrible, but yeah, she's just he's the worst.
It's interesting because like you sort of start off like when you first view their relationship, you view uh the woman as like being pretty awful, but then you realize like the man is equally awful.
Yeah,
Like
exactly right.
like his badness, I don't think excuses the behavior of his girlfriend, but they're both bad.
It helps you sympathize with her, right?
Maybe. I mean, she's pretty bad. She like cheats on him with like three different people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
he's
she's
also
also like
pretty
completely.
terrible.
That's oh yeah, for sure, yeah. But I'm
Very
saying like
clear that he probably doesn't even like Lilian, right? Because the way he talks to Julie after having spent a single night with her is the exact same way he talked to Lilian.
that's true. Yeah. No, he's
I
definitely an
mean,
asshole. But so is she. Like his girl
yeah,
Lilian.
yo, definitely. I'm saying they're both equally culpable.
Yeah. And then I think like by the inverse of that, Julie Baker is like so cool, like such a likable character.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so I have a whole thing on this, but her being the most likable character subverts both the cliche of what we come to expect. It subverts the expectation that the movie itself sets up earlier on in the movie, and it also, in doing all of this, comes closer to reality. And so, what I mean by this is that, like, the cliche is that, like, the really pretty, well liked woman is going to be bitchy and self centered and hard to deal with. It reinforces this cliche in the first part of the movie by talking about how she has some breakdown and it's going to be impossible to work with, and so you're already like going along with this cliche of like, oh yeah, this woman's going to be a diva and she's going to be impossible, and then she ends up being way nicer than anybody else and like the most caring, gentle person in the entire movie. And I think this is actually, at least in my opinion, a lot more like real life. Because at least in my experience, people that are like really attractive and well liked are also really nice to other people, probably because other people are always nice to them. So it does this like cool thing where it's subversive, but also like coming closer to reality at the same time, which I loved.
Yeah, and I really like that too. And it's the way he does it that's so strong, right? As you said, like we get this kind of very narrative set up, and I think a lot of this film in general is about how maybe the narrative set up overridden by the the pictures, the photo of it, right? Like I don't know what you want to call it, the visual,
Mm.
shouldn't necessarily be overridden by a narrative. But like right from the get-go, I think is hard to dislike, right? She's beautiful, she's this very kind, soft features, and we're constantly getting close-ups of her, right? You can't let her seduce you like this. Like she's probably the worst,
Yep.
right? So sympathetic, and she's in a relationship with this doctor who like it's messy too. Also, like he left his family for her, but so bad because she's like actually like in a really rough spot there, and really the only reason she like sleeps with Alphonse is she has some of these like more childish whims from her earlier career, but also because she kind of just feels bad for him and like needs him to stop so the movie can go on.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
And yeah, it just you kind of realize that like you should have let yourself be seduced by her because it probably would have been a more fun experience all along.
Yeah. What I thought too, is that like when Lilian is, I think, complaining to Julie about him, she says that like she needs someone, or he needs someone who can act as his lover, his mother, his nanny, and all of these like different things. And like what made me think of that is that like Julie is this world class actress, right? So that's what she does is she can become an act, a maid. She can become a mother. She can become a lover, and all of these different things. And so that's why like she fits with him. And for a good chunk of this movie, I thought that was gonna be kind of like like they were gonna end up getting together because of that. And of course, it didn't quite end up happening that way. But
But what's the irony of the of what you just said though, right? Is who else is a extremely good actor?
the old lady.
Alphonse.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Alphonse is such a good actor that he's fooled himself, right? These girls are good for him, and they are what he needs, and they can be what he needs.
True. Yeah.
He's like, he's almost pretending himself, thinking himself that they're something that they're not, you know.
Hmm.
He's kind of pinning himself as this romantic and just a guy, and guys should just be acting.
Yeah. I love too, like when, like, because after all this like drama stuff, I think almost every actor or actress in the movie at one point says like, "This is it. Like, I'm done with acting." And then
Yeah,
like in the case of Alphonse, like the little assistant director is like, "Yep, that's a good idea. You should definitely stop acting." But then of course none of them
dude.
stop acting because
I
they
mean,
all talk about their future projects.
yeah, exactly right. That's the irony. Joelle is so funny though, dude.
She's
That's her name. I believe this.
she's the one who's like Truffaut's assistant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
Dude, her scene, that cracked me up whenever they're like washing their hands in the river, and he's like, "So while we're here, want to have sex?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And then he just like is like, "What?" And then like he just like starts looking around. Like that guy's act, I don't remember his name, but like his acting in that scene is like incredible. The way he like,
Bertrand, I
yeah,
believe.
I think, yeah, that sounds right. The way he like looks around, and he kind of just like I don't know, everything about it is so like taken aback and perfect.
Yeah, she's like, you boys, right when I give you a chance, you don't want to take it.
Uh-huh.
But she's just so no nonsense, and I think her character's so great because it kind of shows that like, what's the other girl's name? I'm gonna find it.
Lilian.
Oh no, the makeup girl. Oh well,
Oh, her
maybe
name's I don't know if it's pronounced Odile or Odile, but
Odile.
Odile,
Odile,
yeah.
yeah, Odile, I believe. So great because they show that like these two like throughout the movie are like the backbone of a lot of it, right?
Yep.
And like it shows that like film isn't just about the people that you see or the people whose names you hear, like the director. It's about in between, right? How these two girls are, who probably will get no credit for the film are like some of the most important ones. It's so great. Film is this collective. The idea of film is this collective effort. I think is super important. Like very, I guess like for fresh take, but like definitely kind of contrary to the whole like auteur at this time,
Yeah,
especially
that's
with Coppola and Bergman, who we see like things from. But yeah, sorry, go.
I was just gonna say that she has that great line too, which kind of like I think exemplifies the sort of like film loving side of this cast, which is like I would leave a man for a movie. I would never leave a movie for a man.
Yeah,
And
oh,
this
that's
sort
so
of
great.
like thing about, people like Truffaut or whatever his character's name is, and then her are like, film is better than life. You should. All right. So this whole idea of like them, because she says that she would never leave a movie for a man, she would just leave a man for a movie, and it's this whole like living for movie side of things that she and the director exemplifies, and it's sort of perfectly shown in this scene where um, the producer comes in because Alexander's just died, and he's like freaking out, right? And he like wants to like get all this bad news off his chest and like let everybody know, but they like hold him back, right? Because they're trying to get this scene, and it's kind of like shows what movie is, which is where they basically are like holding back all the chaos and nonsense of life for like just a few moments so that they can get that perfect scene. And in that minute or two, everything has to go perfect. And that these people are basically living for those few moments where all the chaos of life gets pushed back and they get to just capture this like perfect scene.
I think that's a really good point. And just also obviously like Alexander's death is barely even like reflected on, right? We get this like short reflection, but then the movie kind of supersedes Alexander's death. It literally supersedes death. Even death can't stop the cinema.
Exactly, because that moment has already been captured. Like he's already immortalized.
Now I want to go to a bit before that, which I think is like for this a bit of hyperbole, strongest jokes in like all of cinema. So well set up where you get, and it's in this amazing scene, which itself is like has so much going on. But we have this basically. I'll first over the scene real quick, which is basically she has cheated on her husband with Alphonse, and Alphonse has basically told her husband about it. So Alphonse is still in Julie's room, correct? They are, or they had like a different hotel or something. They're in whatever room they had sex in, and up in like her dressing room, a dressing room. Is that right? And doesn't want to see anybody.
Hmm.
Everyone's like trying to figure out like what could it possibly be, and we get like this like really corny line from, oh gosh, who was it? Was it yeah, it must have been. I think it's yeah, no, definitely. It is gosh. Um Joelle. Great line from Joelle where she's like, I know what it could be, and she's like looks at the camera and it closes in on her. She's like, like it's like great detective film, right? And then you just kind of reveal that, basically Julie and Alphonse had sex, and then this old woman who like I think she only appeared the one time in the film, right? Or that's the only time we like, actually get to hear anything about her was very like jealous woman,
Yeah.
right? And she just comes on and is like, "Oh, you people make me sick."
Oh yeah, that's the
Dying.
wife. And it's like that's the wife of this dude. He is here to make sure that he doesn't get with any women's on the crew.
Yeah.
And
That
finally
really
here's the
is like
moment, and she's the perfect commentator for it, and so set up brilliantly.
there really is like the long con of jokes where like she's like briefly mentioned like just as like an aside earlier how it's like, oh yeah, she's just here because she's worried about her husband sleeping around, and then as all this stuff is happening with sleeping around, she just like pops back in for her little
And it's like natural too, because like the husband's
Mhm.
there and he's like actually saying things.
Yeah, that's like yeah, you're absolutely right about the setup on that joke. It's like they put the work into that one.
Oh, it's so strong. And it comes to this great scene, right, where I think this is kind of another theme. It kind of goes along with like film's collective work, where everybody's like is the protagonist of their own story.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's almost the brilliance of Ferrand, is he realizes that he isn't the protagonist of the story, right? He understands the one true protagonist is the film.
Who did you say is? Yeah,
The director, Truffaut's character Ferrand, I believe is his name.
I think yeah. Also, Alexander to some extent, he sort of has like a at arm's length view of everything because he's been doing it so long.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think to kind of like one way that they further that theme is when they have their like little cutaways that are almost like some sort of like documentary style where they're like it's like the press and they're like, so what's the point of this movie? And each of them kind of offers a subtly different explanation of what the movie is.
Talk about this because I didn't really catch on.
Well, so basically, like it happens like twice in the beginning and then once much later in the film. But they basically say, like for example, they ask Julie about what's this movie about? Like the press asks her, and then she says, "Oh, it's about a woman who falls in love with it's about a woman from America who moves to England to get married, and then she falls in love with her father-in-law. And then earlier on in the film, they had asked Alexander, like, "What's the point of this movie?" And then he says, "It's about a man whose son gets married, and then he falls in love
Hmm.
with his son's wife, right?" So they're each kind of describing it like from their own point of view, like what you said about like we're all kind of the protagonist of our own story.
And they both say it's tragic. Who doesn't say it's tragic? Because there's one more interview, right? Do you remember
Yeah,
who it was?
you're right, and you're correct that one of them did not describe it as a tragedy, but I can't remember who it was.
Okay, I'll have to do our homework later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
That's probably Alphonse.
No, I think it was Alexander. I don't want to say I'm sure, but like I want to say it was Alexander because I think Alphonse said something like, and because it's a tragedy, they all have to fulfill their fates or something melodramatic like that.
Alphonse has some like has some bars. We'll give it to him. He's like actually a really interesting character.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I love. Speaking of like the greatest jokes, that movie had such a great gag where when they're trying, like, kind of when they've slept together and he's gone missing and it's all chaotic and they finally find him and they're like, you'll never guess where we found him. And then we just cut to like him like walking onto like this go-kart track and then Alphonse like pulls up in his tiny little go-kart in his helmet, which is hilarious and so perfectly set up too because his girlfriend has left him for a stunt driver, right? So it's him like trying to be like a badass driver, but he's just driving a shitty little go-kart and he has like this dorky red helmet on. But like because it's so cool
Oh, it's
because
so great.
when we see the stunt driver do the stunt, he like pulls up and then like he turns the car to the left from his perspective and then kind of like slides and does like a kind of wide turn. And then he does that exact same kind of turn where like he pulls the steering wheel hard to the left and kind of like grinds along the ground. It's like the
Yeah.
same motion, except he's in a go kart and the other guy's in an actual car. Oh,
It's so funny. I didn't even catch that somehow. Oh, that's
yeah.
really great. Talking about jokes, one that I think is gonna really have to be, I guess, for the French to get, and for my, American self not to. Is there's like a point, like right before they film the stunt scene, actually, where one of the guys goes, "You don't even look Jewish."
Yeah, that was like really weird.
What? I put in my notes. I bet that one slays in France. But
Oh,
the French were cracking up. That was such a weird little moment. Movies, I wish
oh my god.
both of these movies. I really wish I could rewatch. Like if we were to have
Mhm.
quest for the best director, we get one do the movies. So far, this would be the one I would choose because like this movie's just so much. Like this whole photographer guy, which I didn't really like pick up on at first, but they just go to him so often, right? He really doesn't have much dialogue, but like idea of like the photo versus like the film and like the
Mhm.
differences there that I really would love like to explore and like how they use him, and then we don't really get to see it though.
Well, yeah, because he's the one that Liliana cheats with.
One of them, yeah.
And yeah, I don't even think he has a single line of dialogue, or if he does, it's like literally one line.
I'm just curious like why that is. You know what I mean? Like why
I guess
why do they?
because photographs are silent.
That's true, huh? And photographs have no like, narrative to them, right?
Hmm. Dang, that's
That's so
cool.
funny. Yeah. There's like all these little things that are just like so interesting. There was something you liked about the film or disliked.
Uh,
Very positive podcast so far.
Something that I liked a lot that Truffaut did, I'm pretty sure like intentionally because he does it like pretty much through the entire thing, is that he'll, for example, I noticed when he introduces the cat, it's like because he's going to use a cat for the scene for the milk or whatnot. He doesn't say that he's what he's doing, but what happens is Truffaut has the cat like meowing before you see it, so it's like okay, there's a cat, right? That has something to do with this scene, and then as it goes on, you see what he's going to use the cat for. But he has the sound of the cat meowing over the entire scene, very
Hmm.
overstated, like very overstated. And he does that through like pretty much the entire like movie. A lot of the like background, what would usually be background noises, are entirely in the foreground.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because like
Because he did it when in like the dream sequences when the cane was hitting the ground, he would like I think put like the gain like really fucking high and it'd be like basically a like a foreground sound, and then when it usually would be like very understated.
even like all these stage directions, like kind of almost makes the movie confusing at points, like in the balcony practice one where like like you can't tell what's like her messing up her line and them whispering stage directions, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Hmm. That's
And
actually
dialogue.
true. And all of those, this movie totally made me have a new appreciation for like film in terms of like how they had that whole structure made to represent the balcony. Like, and then I don't know, maybe that's like slightly hyperbolic, but that's sure stuff like that happens all the time. And they have that like huge structure made over the pool so they can get that shot of her swimming and like stuff like that. Like I never even thought about how much work must go into collecting some of these shots.
Speaking of the pull
For
shot
sure.
again,
Yeah.
when he shows it to Stacy, uh, the shot, and is like, yeah, it came out great. He specifically ends the recording before she gets out of the water because she is 100% showing her pregnancy when she's out of the water.
Hmm.
And I thought it was great because it was like no attention was drawn to it at all, but you know why he did it already because he set
Yeah.
it up. That's a problem that's happening, so it's like completely logical what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
That seems to be something that like we're coming back to a lot. Is like the setup on these gags is phenomenal.
Hmm.
To
I
where
think
like they don't even have to put that much work into like making the joke itself because half the joke has already been made.
exactly like I don't think like the deliveries from the punchlines are great, but just the setup for it that's like so strong.
Yeah.
But speaking of Stacy, I think another thing that's interesting with this movie is like how goodbyes are treated. Nonchalant, right? Like
Oh
they don't
yeah.
even matter in the context of the film. Like Stacy just leaves, and then you know even I think more crazy, and like her goodbye with Alphonse is so like it was nice getting to know you, Alphonse. Thank you. It's like thank you, Julie. There's no like it's almost no even meaning there. There's nothing, no
Mm,
substance to these
I
goodbyes.
I disagree with that one because he sticks out his hand for her to shake and then she goes in for a kiss. So I think it is like a bit of a reconciliation.
Sure, but I guess one thing where it's like it's what's not being said. You know what I mean? That makes it seem so strong there, but kind of want you kind of want an airing of feelings there, right? Not just like a goodbye and it's okay.
Mm, I was
But
kind of satisfied by that because I think the best thing like the man, what is her name? It's like Juliet, but it's not quite. The
well,
Joelle, yeah. Uh she said like the less you say the better. And I think that's like totally true in that situation because like it's such a messy thing. Like you saying more stuff. You said enough, Alphonse. Let's just
hmm.
keep this simple.
I know what you're saying, but I guess my thing is like when you think of any goodbye, right? Like saying goodbye to all the people that she's been with for months, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree that's true, like
And
in
it's just
general.
like weird that how small the goodbyes are. It's like, oh, by the way, she's leaving. It's like, oh, yes, yes, that's right. Let me go say goodbye. And he gives like them the quickest goodbye.
Yeah.
Never say goodbye when they've people they see every week, right? Like at church or whatever.
Mhm.
Like it,
I
I think it's so interesting.
I think the reason why it feels that way in particular is because you like feel such a close bonds to all of these people and like so you wanna have your own goodbye to them like as a viewer. And I think that's like so cool how like very few of these characters are like explicitly introduced. They're almost all just kind of like introduced in passing. Or just kind of like they get mentioned enough to where like you know their name.
Hmm.
But I felt like I knew like every person on the set. And like when people would like mention them, I like knew who they were, which is like in a for a movie that has this many characters is so difficult to do, I'm sure. And like the feeling that they each have their own personality, that they're all kind of their own person with their own life is like really cool. And I feel like I liked
Yeah,
everybody,
it's
even like
awesome.
the people that I didn't actually like a lot, like Alphonse and stuff. Like I still felt like I knew him, and I felt some sense of like familiarity with him, which is
Sure.
really cool. Like there's so many movies, dude, that have like 3 or 4 characters and you don't get that sense of familiarity. And this movie had like a dozen and you
Hmm.
get that sense with like each one. So that's like so cool.
I think part of it is like we kind of know what we need to know them for. Like even like this random woman who pops up out of nowhere just to talk about how like just get mad at everyone for having being so debaucherous. Like I remember what she looked like, but I just knew it was her because of like what she was saying, right?
Yeah.
And like that her husband's right behind her, and that's all you need to know. And they set up these things like, very simply, very quickly, very efficiently, but like very strong, right?
And like now that you mention it, even before that scene when the director describes like who she is and why she's there, you'd already seen her like on set, like doing her sewing like 2 or 3 times. So it's
Mhm.
like everything is like set up so far before it actually comes to fruition that it feels so satisfying.
Sure. Any last comments on either of these movies?
Oh, that's it. The montages
Okay.
are really good.
Yeah, why do you say that?
Boy, I can't remember. There's one montage where I want to say it's kind of around the scene where they're like filming from outside the window and it's raining. I'm not sure if that's
Mhm.
correct, but I want to say that's where they do one of their montages, and it just like fits the theme of the movie so well because they have this like nice kind of sprightly music, and then all of the busy bees of the crew going around doing their jobs and repeating the same film over and over until it's perfect. It just like I don't know, it hits hard for some reason.
I think it's really great because like all these montages, a lot of them like editing montages. You know what I mean? Like we get like the
Uh-huh.
same clips. We don't ever see the final product, right? Because I don't think the final
Yes,
product is what matters. It's the film. It's the physical film of it. That's what we always see.
that's true. And I meant to mention this earlier, but like it's so cool the way that like this story within a story, like the movie, what's it called? It's her name. It's like Clarence or whatever her name
Oh
is.
yeah,
Uh, but anyhow, like that
definitely not
story within the
Clarence.
story, yeah, it's like how that story is told to us is amazing in and of itself. The way we get this like non-chronological storytelling by basically like getting bits and pieces of the story that are told to us secondhand and
That
by
is really great.
like how for example when they like have this like case of guns and like which one do you want for this scene, and so like you're told like 10 minutes into the movie that there's going to be a gun and somebody's going to get shot, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So like we end up, but then later on we get this scene like of her in the pool where she's like they first hear that the son got married, right? And so like this story within a story we're being told in like this completely chopped up non-chronological manner, which in and of itself is like such a cool narrative technique.
And the guns themselves are so strong, right? Because they like they put so much focus on the guns, right? It's always like these close-ups. Like, oh my gosh, it's like literally the smoking gun, right? Like something bad's gonna happen with these guns, and like I guess it
Yep.
does within the movie, which is once again why I would go to say the protagonist of this is the film itself. But nothing ends up happening, within day for night.
No, but no, it does. That's the beauty, right? Because that scene where he gets shot is equally tragic in Day for Night because they can't even show Alexander's face because he's died in real life. So there's this like double layer of tragedy where the tragedy in the film within the film of the man getting shot is matched by the tragedy in real life of Alexander dying in a car crash. Oh god, this is so
I guess
cool.
so. I mean, that's true, but it doesn't have to do with the gun, right? I don't. I
Well,
just
no,
don't
but
disagree that it has to do with the actual gun of it.
see, like the gun in the first 10 minutes of the movie or whatever foreshadows something bad happening in the inner movie, and which is what happens at first, right? But at the same time, it's actually foreshadowing a later scene, which is also the pinnacle of tragedy of the film, right? Because like it's really tragic that they have to basically do this film injustice by not even showing his face during a crucial scene. So like it's tragic for the main character being the movie itself, right?
Guess I don't think that's how I like read that scene though. I just don't think they gave it like you know what I mean. I don't think it was like I don't think they really ever focus on that. I don't think because the scene kind of goes on. You know what I mean? Like any of the other scenes. I don't think they ever. I mean, maybe you can say it's like this kind of hidden tragedy, but and also of course the gun comes back up in that scene. It's the same scariness. I still don't think this bad was gonna happen with like if something bad is happening within the film, but serious enough. I don't think it's necessarily supposed to have these real world implications because like I got worried even when like Alphonse is like holding this gun, he's like asking me how he should hold it and stuff, and these
Then
sorts of
you're afraid
things.
it's loaded, right?
I think that's more of the point. I don't, Derek, how'd you read it?
Mm, I I kind of agree with Caleb on this one. That's how saw it more as a general foreshadowing than anything.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's go to our awards. First up,
Oh, 1 second. I wanted to mention that Truffaut was doing some interesting things with like camera movement, where some of the time he wouldn't track like the person in the foreground, and you wouldn't realize he's not tracking the person in the foreground until he stops on something in the background or was in the
yeah,
background. Like it was very interesting, and like as I was watching, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then he would also sometimes did it a couple times, specifically when he's like in during like close-ups and stuff. When they like someone like moves quickly out of frame, he doesn't immediately follow them. He'll like maybe go like if they go left, he'll go like right, and then eventually get to them. So you can see like maybe the people around him that that person that just moved.
Can you give us an example of like do you have any scenes written down
Uh,
where that happened?
yeah, when he and Joely or
Well,
Joel, okay, are like, we need to figure out the scene because we have like no dialogue for it right now. And he was like,
okay,
okay.
yes.
And then they're like super close up, and you haven't seen Joel in like a while. He like moves out of Joel. I can't say her name. Jay. You haven't seen Jay in a while. Truffaut moves out of the frame to go right on the board, the dialogue, and he doesn't immediately like go to himself. He shows Jay and what she's doing, and then goes to him.
This is a great irony that that like we're talking about like, what Truffaut's doing in this movie. It's all about how the director isn't. But I guess it's the nucleus of Truffaut. Not necessarily the one person making all the decisions. But yeah, I think that is a really cool, Derek. Quite understand why that is. I guess
Well,
right
it's like
because there's
showing
no.
everybody else, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
the idea is that like the background is the most important thing.
vote.
Yeah, let's wards.
Okay, was Day for Night. Actually, let's like go. I guess it make more sense to do Ozu first. Was I Was Born But a step up or a step down from oh geez guys, help me out here.
Early summer.
Early summer. He's like early summer and like spring or whatever. I get confused with those movies. I apologize. Step up or step down?
I think it was a step down. Maybe a hot take there. I liked early summer a little bit more.
I
Yeah,
hard disagree.
it's tough for me. I like the ideas of I Was Born But like way more, but like as an experience, I enjoyed early summer more. That's kind of
Yep.
difficult for me to say. I'm gonna go step up because I do think the ideas in I Was Born But are a little bit more poignant.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's a better executed movie. I think I Was Born But was like a much better movie personally.
I agree with you on that front, Derek. I like you said, like the ideas are better, but I enjoyed the actual watching it early summer more.
Maybe it's better executed. I wouldn't say that. Wouldn't be comfortable saying that honestly. I would say just from a pure enjoyment standpoint, early summer more enjoyment, like just base enjoyment for me.
I think this is definitely I'm gonna say that early summer was better executed because I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it's particularly like execution, right? It's like pretty traditional Ozu stuff. I feel like a lot of it. I mean, it's like cleanly executed, I guess, but like I think what he's doing here is both more ambitious, but he also succeeds in the ambition. Okay. I don't even think we need to ask Derek this question, but Derek, was Day for Night a step up from both The Wild Child and The Woman Next Door?
Yeah, you could combine the quality of both of those movies, and you'd still be way ahead with this one.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay, Caleb.
Wait, did you not like The Wild Child? I know you didn't like The Girl Next Door, but
Yeah, every time I think about The Wild Child, I keep moving it further down my list.
Gee whiz. Anyhow, I think it's a step up from both of those movies. Although I did like both of those. This movie was just really great.
Just really want to say a step down for the hot take, you know? Should be like, well, when Dexter Door had like all these great things going on,
Oh
I think we should
yeah,
really revisit it.
yeah, uh-huh.
But I'm gonna go step up as well. I think it's definitely a step up. But I did like those movies. Okay, best. Oh, which one do we do first? It's been so long. Best scene, best quote, best quote.
Best quote. Oh, I have a couple. I I really like the dialogue in Day for Night, but these two are probably my favorite. I did not remember to put these down as who said them because I did not expect for it to take this long. But hopefully y'all will remember. My first one, and I think my favorite, is the handshake was invented to show you're unarmed, friendly. We went one further, show our love. My darling, you are so wonderful. Referring to kissing. So the comparison of being armed and unarmed and it being necessary to show that in love is kind of interesting in and of itself.
That's
That
kind
was
of
cool.
interesting. Even
Intentional love and whatnot, and like ulterior motives. Even though it's
Mhm.
speaking on like romantic, feelings, the introduction of that, I don't know. I don't see it done all that much, except for in like spy movies and shit.
Asher. So you did more though, right?
And then the other
How
one,
about
I
Caleb?
hope,
It's really Derek. How about Caleb says his,
yeah,
and I say mine, and then we can go back to you.
yeah.
Okay, Caleb, what's yours?
All right. I forget. Do we do a favorite quote from each movie or just favorite
No,
quote in total?
in total. These are all in total.
Okay. Well, I had a lot. I already mentioned the I drop a guy for a film, but not vice versa. Okay. Uh, as soon
Your
as we
point.
grasp, as soon as we grasp something, it's gone. From Day for Night, kind of like furthering this like theme that I was talking about of like movies are about like capturing that one beautiful moment that will soon disappear. But then also kind of working as like a double metaphor here for like uh I don't know, just like relationships or happiness or general life stuff.
Interesting. Okay, I like it. Mine was put it on my phone, not on my. So I guess it's. I think people used to look at the fire the same way they look at television. People have
Oh,
always been fascinated with moving images. I thought that was so strong and so cool and just like actually made me think in such a very real way.
yeah, that's a good one.
Right, I hope y'all can tell me who said this one, but my second favorite was, anyway, I don't think death is natural.
Yeah,
The
that's
Alphonse,
Alexander, I think. That's
Alexander.
Alexander. Yeah, because he's talking about how like he in 80 movies he's died 50 different ways or something like that. He's been shot twice. He's committed
Mm-hmm.
suicide, all these
Yeah,
different things. And he says, but I've never had a natural death. Anyway, I don't think death is natural.
Look how that turned out. Ultimate irony
Yep.
there, huh?
That's a real foreshadowing right there, actually.
yeah, that's a correct.
Anyone else?
Uh, I like when uh, Alphonse's girlfriend says that he wants the whole world to pay for his unhappy childhood. I thought that was clever.
Oh, but her name is Lilian. Okay,
Lillian said that.
it's Derek's favorite character in the whole movie.
Really?
At the number one talking point, so I need you to respect it. Move on to best scene. Mine's pretty obvious. I think mine is definitely the scene of the boys in the chairs and just like this whole like tension with the rice balls and all this sorts of things, all the great dialogue that goes on in there. I really like that scene a lot. Warm butt, of course.
Oh, I remember now. I remember the scene in Day for Night when they're filming the car crash off the cliff. The shot of that was just like actually incredible. He gets both the camera shots of the fall and the camera's on the hill taking the shot of the fall within the movie. It, it's so great. And
It's really good.
the like I don't know, the destruction of it was so aggressive. It was great. And you see the stuntman like roll out of the car as if it rolls off the cliff.
Also, like the hilarity of that scene is that that's like one of the dudes, a crew member's car. That's like his actual car
Yeah.
that they just like took for some reason. Like, nope, we need this one.
Dick's so cool with it too. He's like, yeah, that was my car, but I have another one in Paris at the end.
Yeah.
That's so great. Okay, Caleb, favorite scene?
I think I already mentioned it, but the montage in Day
Yeah.
for Night. Yeah, because like they use music so sparingly in that movie, but whenever they use it, it just like hits super hard.
Agree. Okay. Sure. So many to choose from. So I want to hear some unique ones.
What award are we doing now?
The character?
Favorite character?
Yeah, a lot to choose from.
Uh, I'm probably finna take yours, Mac. But Joel,
Joel?
yeah, Joel.
Pretty great.
That's what I was thinking too. God dang it.
Favorites. You're good.
Oh, yours is probably the younger boy in I Was Born
Oh,
By.
Derek, how about you wait and I'll say mine.
Coincidentally, Derek, those were actually my two choices, so we have very similar opinions on this movie.
Caleb, you're also choosing one of these two characters. You guys want to elaborate on these thoughts?
Oh, which one? Which one is? So Derek's choosing Joel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was gonna choose the younger brother, because his visual comedy was really top tier. Always like following his brother like at just the perfect timing to where like there was just enough of a beat between what his older brother was doing and what he was doing to like get the proper comedic impression, I guess. And all of his facial acting was so good too.
Yeah, and Joel, because she was so no nonsense and was like the backbone or whatnot, and she was pretty dope. It was pretty cool.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the order. I think it's been Ryuichi. So strong. He's actually bizarrely prolific character. And also kind of tragic. Played by a child, and I think he does so well in the movie. But then also Severine, who I think like she's someone who we actually really didn't talk about, which is weird. She's such a big part, especially for the first half of the movie. Like super tragic figure where she's like obviously a big source of comedy and like some of her shenanigans. Like she's always just like looking at the pictures of these younger women and being, that used to be me. Thing is she just like life's passed her by and all she can do is like what gave her so much. I think she's really great. Performance.
Favorite performance.
Tough choices here.
I'll say whoever acted your favorite character, Matt, because when she's like having a hard time getting through that scene was like
Oh yeah,
really powerful.
Valentina Cortez is her name. Cortez? I don't know, something like that. Great job as Severine, but I don't know if that's my favorite. Derek,
I want to say the father in I Was Born But.
Ooh, good choice.
a good choice, yeah. Considering both those characters, I'm probably gonna go with the more basic one of just as Julie Baker. I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah.
Like all of her scenes are so strong, and I think she does exactly what she needs to do, which is like really great. Actress.
She looks like Elizabeth Hurley. I was like, when I first saw the movie, I was like, is this Elizabeth Hurley?
Not.
Oh, speaking of lookalikes,
Jacqueline.
did you guys notice that the crew member in Day for Night whose car they used looked weirdly like oh Christ, what's his name? God dang it. He plays the dad in The Shining.
Oh, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, he looks like Jack Nicholson a lot.
Kind of, yeah. I thought he kind of looked like this is gonna be like a deep cut for all those out there. I think I actually mentioned it on a previous podcast though. And Woody Allen, this is one character who's like shown up in like a couple of his movies now, who's just, like this random schmo. It's a deep cut, but that's what I thought he was. Okay, but now for the moment of truth. Caleb this time. Caleb, which movie are you voting for?
Day for Night. I thought they were both
Yeah.
really good movies, but Day for Night it was less subtle about what it was doing, but it had a lot more going on. I was really impressed with the way they were able to like have a whole bunch of characters all feel fully fleshed out and likable. And like we've talked about a lot, they have like amazing setup on all of their jokes and gags with like stretching back, like the joke would be set up like literally the beginning of the movie. Um, yeah, and it was really satisfying to watch. Great movie.
Okay, well I'm gonna go next.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
good
might
because I
have
have
podcast,
no idea what I'm gonna pick yet.
might have some podcast history going on depending on how this goes. But I'm going for I Was Born But.
Yeah.
Caleb, you said there's a lot going on in Day for Night. Going on, I Was Born But. We have all sorts of things. I think Day for Night. It's a great movie, but it's really just on the really the same basic theme of like film, like as this like kind of like togetherness, this escape, and this sort of thing. But Day for Night, we have all sorts of things about like family, about like childhood, what this means about like the kind of the tragedy of adulthood. All these characters, I think I Was Born But has main cast, right? We have obviously like the main family, and then we have, of course, like the boss, who I think himself is like this like ridiculous character, this old man who's just like so oblivious and so like kind of supersedes everything. And we didn't talk about the mom. We didn't talk about some of these like other little kids, like their friend, the boss's son, the bully, who I think is like actually amazing. Obviously, we talking about that little boy with the sign. Don't feed. I mean, I think it has some maybe not quite as deep of a cast, but I think a super strong cast in itself. Just like we talked about the sign, we talked about just like some of the silly things that happen in this movie. It's not a long setup, so I think like some of the gags and stuff's like almost more subtly done. And talk about satisfying. This movie left me so satisfied. I have really never seen anything like I Was Born But, or Day for Night for that matter. But like I Was Born But ended this like really just like strong way for me. Well, up to you.
And Matt, you did a
I know I
good.
went for
Yeah,
it.
he was selling that one. I could
Yeah.
tell he was putting his persuasion into effect.
Yeah, honestly, you're persuading me pretty well. That's tough. That's really tough.
Oh, Derek, you know in your heart.
Even talk about
Outside-
the mom, who by the way I think the mom.
Yeah, she was
Don't
great.
even say the mom.
She-
I really liked her a lot. Yeah.
She's so great. Her performance is like. I almost voted for her too. By the way, best performance. I think it's like so like strong.
Matt's trying to convince you he doesn't want us to bond together. He doesn't want us to overthrow.
It's not that.
God damn it.
Derek, if you ever need like a good tiebreaker, you could think about previous movies.
uh,
Not good at that.
yeah, I gotta go Ozu on this one. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know you would have picked Truffaut had Matthew not tried to do his persuasion
Honestly,
tactics on you.
when I was
Tried. I succeeded.
I came into this, I was like, I kind of like Day for Night more. I was like, it's kind of just funnier, at least. And it's like this Alphonse character, maybe. I was like, I don't know.
I have in my notes giant letters. Fuck Alphonse. I'm not
Oh,
sure
yeah,
what moment that was.
I
He's
also
so
put
bad.
in my notes Alphonse. I put Christ. Alphonse is an asshole.
He's definitely done a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true.
This man is like the most successful of Dunlops. Like he's really made it. Yeah, we were saying Derek.
It was tough for me for sure. I was like, but it was just like, Day for Night was just like base and more entertaining, but I Was Born But had way harder takes and like ideas.
Yeah, I think more to think about for sure.
Jeez. Matthew's trying to stop us. He doesn't want. He knows that if we bond together, we'll be
But I
too
think
powerful.
I've succeeded. Okay, so my computer's actually being dumb. Next, matchups.
Wait, what?
Let me
I can
see.
do it. I can do it. I got it. It's working now. So it's going to be versus Charlie Chaplin. No, Rossellini, right? Roberto Rossellini. Scorsese versus Kenji Mizoguchi.
Uh, let's do this. Let's say Mean Streets last.
Do Mean Streets for last. We're gonna go Lost Highway versus. Sorry, I actually don't have it up. Is it Paisan or is it?
Probably Python. I don't have it up either. I can get it up though.
Can you, Derek?
I never have any problem with that.
Germany or zero. It's Germany or zero. Okay, so it is. Sorry, I had to stop the phone. So it's Germany or zero versus Lost Highway. This is gonna be strongest one yet. I've seen neither of these movies. I've heard good things about both.
I hope so. I have not been impressed by Rossellini yet.
Jesus Christ.
What else did Rossellini do?
He did Stromboli and Flowers of the Saint, dude.
Oh yeah, Francis St. Francis.
Derek, can you like maybe just give it a rest with this Rossellini stuff? No.
No, me and Rossellini have big beef.
I feel like we should have a rule where each of us can only be allowed to be a hater on one director. We do a one director hate rule.
Hey, I don't hate any of these directors. I literally just didn't like a couple of them that
Who would your
somehow
one be?
made mine. Ooh,
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, that
Truffaut, haven't you said that you've hated all of his movies so far, barring the most recent one, I guess?
yeah, pretty much. But I don't know. There's been a couple of directors that's made it so far that. Let's see.
And I can't believe we voted for Tarkovsky over Antonini. I should have gone with Derek on that
Yes, I told you. Oh my.
one. Eh,
The Passenger literally. It's just that. Even if it's just like 5 minutes of boring, it's like. Solaris is like
so boring.
It's like 30, 40 minutes of boring.
No.
Wait, which
People being
movie? Which
very
movies are these?
looking at the Passenger versus Solaris. I just,
What? Shut up! Solaris is literally like one of the best movies we've seen so far.
And The Passenger is just better.
Law Note's the best movie we've seen so far. So
The Note is also really good.
Oh, you think Passenger is the best one that we've seen so far?
I said La Note.
Oh, no. Yeah.
That was my number one. Yeah, remind
And
me.
that was another reference too when they said when she was trying to do the scene and when she was like, "Can I just say numbers like we do with Fellini?"
Oh yeah. You got the Fellini one in there.
Wait, which one was Bresson? Oh no, Bresson. I like Bresson. Yeah, I'd
You
probably.
like Bresson.
Yeah, I'd probably pick.
Or Bresson and Kilo doesn't like Bresson.
Yeah, that's
Shout out
right.
to
Wait,
Kilo.
wait. Hang on, who said that? What does Bresson direct? Remind me.
Shut.
Yeah.
Is that the only one we've seen?
No, we watched another.
Yeah, we watched Diary of a Country Priest.
I like Country Priest. I just didn't like Michette.
Yeah, you gave it a fucking 25, and we had it at like 10.
No, I was thinking about that movie earlier today. I was like, man, Mouchette's such an ass movie. I think about it regularly.
You know,
I hate that
actually,
movie.
for my final project for film, which or I guess not final, one of my big project for film, we did a video essay, and Machette was one of the films that I used my video essay. So
Cool.
okay, but until next time, I'm Matthew Moore. This is Caleb Ferguson, Derek Krasinski. Have a great night. Remember, watch more movies.